You've spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Good afternoon, Scott.
Oh, it's afternoon. I got my coffee cup here. So
it's perfectly placed product placement.
Yeah, no bathroom. Just it's the afternoon and the sun is shining. How is your day going?
It's been a day, hasn't it? With the storm, we have employees without power, and then I didn't get this email out on time today for this, and essentially they changed this whole software that I produce our show from. So I'm learning it as we go today. How's your day been?
See, that's refreshing. So my wife and I woke up having 3 events today, banking on children being healthy, only to find out that not one isn't healthy, but 2 are not healthy. Mm-hmm. So we're playing the pickup basketball game of here's children, here's a Zoom, who's presenting here, who's doing this, who has drinks with leaders at 3 p.m. Aaron and Scott do. So we're here. We're super excited.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah. And just like the curveball life throws at you, you need a partner like Bank of Blue Valley. And a great sales reference I heard is our job is to be the pillar in the storm. So using a stormy reference, that's why you hire Bank of Blue Valley to be there for when you need them, when there is a storm.
I love that. I also love how you are the best spokesperson because you can bring anything back to the sponsor at any point. That is very good.
I brag about being an inch deep and a mile wide. And so when I don't know what I'm talking about, if you spin it into a metaphor, people are like, oh, they must have put a lot of thought into that. But it's really a deflection of hey, let's not dig in the weeds on your ROI for your marketing. I'm going to bring my friend Aaron of Lily and James in here.
Oh,
so it's one of those you don't want to dig too deep because people will not know what you're talking about, except for our panelists who are experts in their industry.
We have a great panel. I want to say something to this point, though, real quick. Last night we were eating dinner over here at I call it Mark Wahlberg's restaurant, Wahlburgers, whatever it is, right?
It's called Mark Wahlberg's restaurant.
Mark Wahlberg's restaurant with my friend Mark. And my daughter goes, it's Joel Goldberg, because he's now doing some air conditioning commercials, speaking of spokespeople. And we look up and he's on all the TVs, and she's so excited that her friend Joel was up there. So we got a lot of friends apparently in this product placement. Okay, let's pull up people real quick because I see somebody from our friendship group at Bank of Blue Valley. First, Joel, good afternoon to you too, Joel. Matt, happy Drinks with Leaders Tuesday, everyone. Another great week. I don't know who this is. If you come up like this, that means you have your privacy on your pictures and your names. Go fix that. And then Miss Felicia from Bank of Blue Valley is watching today. Felicia, we think you're even more amazing. So thank you for joining us.
All right. Fun fact, Felicia is the whole reason behind the show and help puts us together. So when you think of the graphics that Aaron puts together, she puts it together with Felicia, and then Felicia helps us put on the show involving Bank of Blue Valley in the format. So it's cool always to have Felicia on there.
Felicia is amazing. And Felicia, we're going to go get more Bank of Blue Valley swag from tomorrow. And we're very excited about this. So, okay, I'm going to see how this song goes. Oh, this one's going to be too slow. Let me just get our regular one. Are you excited about our panel?
It's got to be better than my strikeout of carnival music or you name it. We've messed up on the DJing.
We're not the best DJs, but we do put on a good personal brand business Kansas City show. And that's what people really are here to see. So let's bring in our Sports music, hashtag sports. All right. Our first guest today is Kristen.
Hello.
Our next guest is Miss Merrique. You know this guy. We put him on LinkedIn as Charles, but you know him as Bad Luck Chuck. And last but not least, his son was on our show a couple weeks ago. This is the first father-son team we've ever had on the show. Johnnie.
Hi there.
That was not the right music, clearly. That was supposed to be the fun music when people are coming in, but that's okay. Welcome, everybody, to Drinks with the Leaders. We are so excited. I have to tell you, this panel has really been cool because I forgot to send the link. I tried to send it and the internet went out. So everybody was so agile and jumped right on when we figured that out today. So thank you all for joining us. Let's jump into it. We've got quite a few viewers already. So Kristen, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Okay. Who am I? So I thought about that question. I was like, in the past, I think my first thing would be to describe myself from a work perspective, right? And I think COVID's kind of made me reevaluate that, right? How do you value yourself? So who am I? First and foremost, I'm a mom. I'm a mom of 3 kids. Anyone who knows me knows if you want to get me distracted, I bring up my kids, right? I'll talk about them all day long.
How old are your children?
I have a senior. So I have a 17-year-old senior at West. I have an 8th grader. And my youngest will be a 7th grader. So I literally have 2 kids graduating, one from high school, it'll be middle school to high school, and then a daughter who will be 13. So I will have a crazy year this year. But we will get through it. What about me? So VP of Sales and Marketing for NetStandard. I joined them in May of 2020. So that was an interesting time. I joined right in the middle of COVID. And NetStandard, if you don't know it, is a managed services provider. So we do everything from complete outsourcing of IT to everything from help desk, workstations, laptops, to security, to strategic planning, to how do we make your IT costs an enabler. So we run that gamut. So I will tell you, this has been an interesting year and a half of getting entrenched with the community and supporting everybody through COVID. It's been a great time, I think, for our customers and for us just kind of being able to get through that. What else can I tell you about me? Well, you probably picked up on it. I'm not from the Midwest, if you hear my accent. So I've been living here.
Texas or Canadian?
There you go. So it's 5 years in January. So that time flew. And actually what got me here was Sprint. So I was with Sprint for 23 years before joining NetStandard, always in New York City. So I'm born and raised New Yorker, and they got me to move to Kansas City, and I stayed through the merger. So I was officially a T-Mobile employee for one day. But my position was moved to Colorado, and that's when they were amazing to me. And we worked it out to say I didn't want to relocate again because my kids are now in high school, right? So I didn't want to make that move again to my kids. So found NetStandard, and Scott, you and your dad were a great help in that. And that was one of those amazing experiences where everybody was a true partnership between Sprint, and I was staying on board through the merger, NetStandard understanding that. And we worked all that out in February, not knowing COVID was coming, and agreed for me to stay through the merger and start with NetStandard in May. So I look back at that, and it's interesting to think I had a crystal ball, which I didn't, and how the world changed from what I decided in January till now.
So it's a curious Kansas City question. I'm sure you've gotten it before, but what would you say is the difference between introductory meetings because a lot of what you do is running a team that does new business, existing business, really just kind of the entire flow of business operations for your organization. But what's the difference on an East Coast than it is in the Midwest? Because I feel there's a difference. Like you got a guy or a girl on the East Coast, but in the Midwest, it takes a really long time to win someone over, but also takes a really long time to lose something. So as this being a business show, what's the difference and what advice, if you had to blend the two together, would you give?
Yeah, it's so true. I think when I first came on board, right, some of the differences are literally just logistics, right? So when you work in the East Coast, you're commuting. So you're commuting a significant amount of time. So by the time you walk into your office, you've gone through a ton of emails and thinking you're going. In the Midwest, you don't have an hour, 2-hour commute. So you walk in the door and people are saying, good morning, how's your day going? Like they're just starting their day where you've been through that 2 hours of that. So you come in a lot faster. So that was something I had to notice, to take that step back and say, wait a second, they haven't been working for 2 hours, right? It's a different kind of mindset of getting into that. Another great thing, and it's a cultural thing, is when in conversation is the pause. So in New York, we don't pause very long. I mean, when someone's done speaking, that next person tends to go right away. In the Midwest, there is a pause. So what you have to be careful of is in the New York, we'll just go and they're like, well, wait a minute, they cut me off. But it's a cultural thing. They think when they're done speaking, they're done, right? But in the Midwest, there is that pause to say, let me reflect on what that person said. So it's really interesting to kind of take that back and to realize how people perceive and react to things. But so, yeah, I would say you definitely, you have to ask more questions in the Midwest too, because to your point, they won't always tell you no, right? Or tell you that difficult conversation. So you do really have to ask more questions to truly understand where you stand with that person. It is very different.
One quick question. What does an ideal client look like for NetStandard? I mean, you work with a lot of organizations, anywhere from 15 employees to 1,500. But what does that bread and butter, to use a Joe Goldberg baseball analogy, what does a single or a double look like?
Yeah. I think that classic bread and butter is probably that 50 employees to 200, where IT is essential to your business, but it's not your core business. So when you look at that and you kind of go, okay, are you in a growth phase, right? And how are you struggling with, how do you get data through your organization? And is that important to build for the next 5 years? That's kind of a key customer for us. So when you think of finance, you think of manufacturing, where that data is so important, but it's not what the experts are, right? That they're not IT experts, as well as healthcare. And not-for-profit is actually a huge piece of our business too, because they simply need so much help, right? I mean, it's just, you're not typically going to have an IT expert in that sector. So we actually have a significant amount of not-for-profit with our finance and manufacturing. So it runs the gamut in terms of the vertical.
I love that. Well, thank you for joining us. Merrique, are you there? We can come back to you. All right. It's a crazy internet. There you are. And you're on mute. And you've muted yourself, so I cannot unmute you.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I was saying my dog was barking, so I had to deal with that. But yeah.
Who are you? What are you doing? How do you get to Kansas City?
Yeah, so my name is Jenson. I'm the program director for Transformations, which is a trans and gender expansive youth organization based in the Midwest. So we're based in Kansas City, Missouri right now. And we recently had kind of a revamp and rehaul of what we're doing as an organization. And so we're now actually expanding to Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri statewide, specifically Northwest Arkansas, so focusing on the Ozark region. But we've been around since 2016. We're a nonprofit. We started as a grassroots youth organization. And so we started really in response to the epidemic of violence that was affecting Black and Brown, trans, women of color in the Kansas City area. So my background is as an organizer, as an advocate. Professionally, I've been doing work within nonprofits for about 20 years. So I've helped build a variety of LGBT anti-violence programs in Chicago and St. Louis, now in Kansas City. And so recently we took our work and we're all remote and going virtual. And so that's really cool. And part of the work that we're doing is we're launching a summit that's actually coming up tomorrow. It's a leadership summit focused on mentorship, advocacy, and leadership of trans women of color. And so we're having that. It's a 2-day summit. And it's going to be tomorrow and Thursday. And you can check it out at transformationskc.org/summit. And we're really excited. That really hasn't happened, both in Kansas City or the Midwest, but even nationally. And I think one of the cool things that's happened when we had COVID and we went virtual is that for a lot of trans women of color, it actually made us safer in a lot of ways. And it actually allowed us to become more entrepreneurs and leaders. And so it's really showcasing all of these amazing women from across the country who are nonprofit leaders, who are directors, who started their own organizations, who are influencers, who are spokespeople for the community across the country. So I'm really excited about that.
So Merrique, two questions. One, when you go to the website, the branding's awesome. Like, I don't know. So explain who did the marketing and how you put that together. And then secondly, you mentioned you've been throughout the Midwest and around the country. How do you, or why do you call Kansas City home?
Yeah, so I think the branding is awesome. I love our designer we've always worked with. That's Paul Oldham, Oldham. He's based in Kansas City. I think Paul's also a great example of what an ally looks like. He's a cisgender white dude who is totally aligned for uplifting trans women of color and trans people of color. And so I've been working with Paul because I have my own company as well. I should have said that. I have my own consulting company called Social Scope Productions. And so I've been brought in a lot to do like equity, inclusion, diversity training for Kansas City, for the city, for nonprofits and stuff. But Paul and I have been working together. Our past project was this event entertainment series called Get Woke, which is getwokekc.com. Paul did all this branding for it. It was, kind of like a pop-up resource fair and community event at the same time. And then he has been doing our transformations website. And so we really wanted it to feel fresh and new, and like the young people that we have worked with actually informed our branding, our tagline, which is life begins the moment you can be yourself. And so he's really responsible for that. I mean, I think it's very slick and polished, and I think really sets it up to look fierce. And the Summit's website is just all of that, but then Summit after, SUMMIT. Paul is with Odd Fox Design, a great person. He's always the first person I recommend for our branding. In Kansas City, I was brought here. I was recruited from St. Louis to build a regional LGBT anti-violence program. And when I arrived, there was, after 4 months of kind of doing work within this youth program, there was also the first of a series of homicides, which is, not a fun topic to talk about, but it's also the reality. I mean, when we think about like, where do we find trans folks and trans people within corporations, within businesses, within nonprofits? I think that there's a lot of work to do to elevate leadership, to see folks reflected back. I think that a lot of folks in Kansas City right now, I think, are very open to the diversity, equity, inclusion, right? The DEI, work, and people have consultants and stuff. But I also think it's really important to see the folks that you need to bring to your company or your organization actually in leadership, actually informing the policies and the hiring practices, like what accountability structures look like, right? And so I stayed in Kansas City because I started to do work as a consultant, but with COVID, I have been able to also work remotely and virtually. So I actually right now am living part-time in Seattle, which is where I'm at, which, has been a whole different game. But I still do work in Kansas City, and I travel a lot right now across the country. So
that is awesome. One quick question, one comment. Sure. I saw the other day, social media influencer Kansas City, Josh Levin, said like the 5 things you regret on your deathbed. And I thought it'd be like family, or like telling people, you didn't get a chance to tell them you love them. The number one regret was not being your true self 100% of the time. I thought that was really interesting. But kind of the same question I asked Kristen, you mentioned your own consulting firm. So what does an ideal client look like for your consulting firm that you would work with?
That's a good question. I get a lot of folks who reach out that they're aware of like equity inclusion issues within their organization, within their small business company. Like I had a leadership series I led last year for white women in leadership after the murder of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. There was a lot of specifically white folks and white women in Kansas City who were like, okay, I have to do something, right? Like I can no longer just put the hashtag and put stuff up, but I have to do something. And so I worked in alignment with other women of color, both cisgender, so women that are not trans, as well as trans women of color, to do this leadership series for white women who, you know, typically are running nonprofits, who have found leadership to be able to thrive in nonprofits, but also have their own small businesses. Some, you know, were working at places like Cerner and other major corporations, and helping them look at what does it mean to be at the intersections of both dealing with oppression, so sexism, patriarchy, misogyny, but also having privilege around race, having the ability to still you know, have a culture that you can walk in that has been created and made to make you feel safe. And so I have a lot of folks who reach out who are like, hey, we want to do this one-time training for our agency. And what I started to say is if you're not committed to accountability and practice beyond that, it's not worth the time, right? Because like we're not doing checkbox conversations to say, you know, this is what we do and let's get our DEI certificate and then, you know, make it cute and keep it going. And so I think that's something specific for the Midwest that folks in the Midwest actually have to sort of like look at what that looks like on a further scale beyond just sort of like the initial entrance conversation. And so clients that are Austin and me are clients that actually are willing to commit to that ongoing accountability process.
I love that. Merrique and I share a good friend in Haley Walsh. And while she was going through the program, Haley and I were walking. So when I was doing the Hard 75, so we were walking like 3 days a week. And she would be like, okay, listen to what I learned from Merrique. Okay, listen to what I learned from Merrique. And it blew my mind because I thought I had done a lot of work in that space. And so I highly suggest.
Haley Walsh, very popular. What does she do for the audience?
She owns City Gym, downtown Brookside. So yes, but I highly suggest reaching out to Merrique if you really want to do the ongoing work.
And I just wanted to say really quick too that I know like this is a LinkedIn thing, right? And it wouldn't do me justice to be on here to say some of the most amazing, I'm trying not to use any cuss words, but you know, some of the most amazing women I know are not on LinkedIn. And I think that when we think about how we reach folks who are actually doing the work sometimes, and this is no, like LinkedIn's amazing, right? But it's no slam to LinkedIn or anything, but sometimes we have to actually look to sources outside the traditional systems of what we say are, this is where you go to get your next job. This is where you put your resume. I mean, I'm someone who's never been on LinkedIn and I completely work for myself. And that's phenomenal as like a trans woman of color who has experienced homeless and chronic, you know, issues in my life. And a lot of trans women of color have really carved their own path to be able to be their entrepreneurs and their leaders. And so I think that's an amazing resource and community to tap into, to be like, how did you do this? How did you get to this place where you are able to thrive? Where there are certainly lots of systems that have not been set up for support. So I just wanted to say that because a lot of the women even at the summit probably don't have a LinkedIn, right, but are absolutely worth reaching out to for consultation and, you know, organizing and leadership.
Sounds like you may have volunteered yourself if Aaron and I can bribe you to help us book guests on the show. But you're absolutely right. I always call the metaphor, I call it, where's the ballpark? You know, everyone uses the metaphor for wealthy people that are in the 1%, or maybe someone like myself that, is what you would call the center of privilege of being male, Caucasian, two parents, et cetera, of being in privilege, but you don't know where the game is being played. And I've never thought of that. And that is such an important point. I think we all need to be sharing is that not people that we need to reach may not specifically be on LinkedIn or weren't tipped off that LinkedIn is a place to conduct business. So I think that's a great point.
And or if they're killing it and they're not using the platforms that we tell everyone to use, we could learn a lot too, right?
Yes,
like how are you doing it? How are you getting your clients? We could learn as well. So just for fun though, we are on YouTube and Facebook. So hopefully they'll see this somewhere too and then tell us that how they're doing and they can come on the show, but we're going to tap into your network. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Merrique.
Thank you.
Who are you? What do you do? How do you get to Kansas City? And I got a fourth one for you. Why do they call you? Is it Bad Luck Chuck? Oh, you're on mute. That one's my bad. We were getting a little bit of feedback. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, I'm born and raised here in Kansas City. Been here all my life. But yeah, I'm known as Bad Luck Chuck now. And the crazy part is, I'm gonna get to the story of how that happens before I get to what I currently do and everything. All right, so if everyone watches Chiefs football and everything, this goes to a while back, like a few years ago. I was over a friend's house. It was me and a group of fellas. We was watching the Chiefs Colts wildcard game. We thought we had the game wrapped up, and everyone knows we blew the game and lost in the end. And everyone tried to blame it on me. I'm like, how's it my fault? And just got a good laugh out of it. Then all of a sudden, I was finally able to afford playoff tickets to go to Chiefs playoff games, and for some reason, I've never seen them win a game in my life. And then all of a sudden, this is when my viral moment happens. All right, so everyone knows 2 years ago. I don't know if it was 2 years ago, but anyway, everyone knows.
It was 2 years ago.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure I had that right.
2-3, you know what I mean? But the year before we won the Super Bowl.
Right. So, all right, so I'm at the Chiefs-Texas playoff game, right? After originally was like, nah, I don't want to go. But I got too excited thinking they was going to win the game, so I decided to go. Things weren't going well once again. And then I decided to listen to all the friends that told me, like, Charles, please leave the stadium. Leave the stadium right now. Leave the stadium right now.
Down by 4 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns? I think we're down by 4.
Yeah. At the time when I left, it was 24-0. And I posted the video on my Twitter. I said, all right, I'm not playing around this time. I'm leaving. We're going to see what happens. And as soon as I get home, things started to turn around. And what do you know? Chiefs win the game, and they become Super Bowl champions. But after the game, my video blows up. I get contacted by everybody, like all across the world, basically, all kinds of different networks, like SportsCenter, NFL Network, Good Morning America, Canadian news stations. That's how big it got. That's how crazy it got. And then all of a sudden, my name's everywhere. I blow up. I do a few interviews, and now currently, I am currently one of the co-hosts of Kingdom Kast. I'm going to turn it into a podcast now, covering Chiefs football and everything. But it's not just me. My guys, John and Anthony, they with me as well. So we all collectively decided to do a podcast. And the crazy part is, beforehand, everybody was suggesting that we should do a podcast before, because sometimes we be bickering back and forth on the timeline over sports and everything. So one day we decided to try it out, and the chemistry worked out. We just freestyled. The chemistry worked out and everything. And since then, the page has gone close to 500 followers on Twitter, over 300 followers on Facebook, and 129 subscribers on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, but on YouTube. So it's starting to grow a bit now. And we have some pretty good guests on there too. So everything's going well on that end.
So professionally, you have multiple jobs. You do consulting, you do a day job. I mean, what do you not do? I want to know what your favorite thing to do is outside of your podcast and consulting. What are things that you enjoy doing personally? And then also, what are you doing every day when you're waking up early in the morning during the week?
Okay, so currently work for the United States Postal Service. I'm a middle processing clerk down there. So I'm the one helping getting the letters sent and everything. So that's what I currently do. But besides that, of course, I like to play basketball. Like to talk sports. I like to get into movies a little bit. I'm trying to be more of a movie head, but sometimes it's kind of tough, scheduling and everything. But yeah, that's basically what I like to do in my spare time outside of work and everything. But yeah, as far as the hobbies are concerned, that's basically it.
So Chuck, tell everyone how we met.
Okay, so I went to the KC Wineworks event, and it was hosted by Kiana Sinks and Nicole Sylvie. We went there, and all of a sudden, Kiana introduces me to you, Scott, and we hit it off. We had a conversation, whatever, and it led to me being on the show today. So, it's a pleasure for me to even be in this, be on the show today, and be in this environment, and be around all these heavy hitters here. So.
I bet Scott was way more excited than you to meet you.
Well, it's absolutely. The funny thing is no matter what you do, it's so interesting. Whenever we do events, and Johnnie can chime in, and Kristen can chime in, and Aaron can chime in. We've all been to thousands of events. If there is more of one sex in any of the room, everyone automatically congregates. to either side. And so like, I think it was like probably over 35 women and like 5 guys. And, you know, naturally like 5 guys all start talking to each other and we all get put in a corner together. And, but I think it's kind of cool when you congregate. It's like going to middle school again, whenever you're at an event where you don't know people. So.
That's hilarious. Yeah. When you scheduled for the show, I just knew Scott was so geeked. So he's definitely probably way more excited than you are that you're on the show. We appreciate you joining us. Johnnie, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City? And are you going to claim any Chiefs wins?
Say that again.
Are you going to claim any of the Chiefs wins?
Sure. But I want to make a comment, and that is, it can be a good thing to be first, and it can be a good thing to be last. But I'm reminded that the last will be first, and the first will be last. Take that for whatever it's worth. Background, though, I grew up in Wellington, Kansas. I did my schooling at Emporia State University. I've been married for 35 years to my lovely wife, Connie Turnus Craig. Got to put that middle name in there. We live in Gardner, Kansas. We talked about that before the show started. That's where our business is located. We have 6 young adults that are no longer children. Gentry, my son Gentry, was on your show a few weeks back. He's the director of finance for Payette. And his lovely wife, she is the psychiatrist at the VA hospital. And I have to do this. My second son, he's still searching for himself in life. He's going to get there eventually. But my third son, Riley, he in fact is a commodities broker for Anderson Company. And then my first daughter, Chloe, she is in fact an esthetician. She owns her own business here in Gardner, Kansas. So we got a lot of entrepreneurs in the business. We are a business. As a family, we are a business. My second daughter, Sophie, she is in her 3rd week of med school at KU. And my last daughter, Natalie, she's a junior at K-State, majoring in human development. And I do have 3 grandchildren, Addie, Max, and Amelia. And I'm proud of all of that.
Here's one of your sons right now. Gentry says it was a blast being on the show. Fun seeing JC, not Dad, on the show.
Well, I'll have to say I watched the show, nervous about doing it, but I really enjoyed not only the hosts that you had on, which should I say the guest you had on. I enjoyed the hosts as well, but it was fun, and I'm going to try to have a little fun with it as well. I personally have 4 brothers and 2 sisters, so we come from large families, and it's safe to say I've always been an entrepreneur. As a kid, I'd mow lawns. You probably heard Gentry say that's how he started, and that was his first business. Raked leaves, shoveled snow, and as a matter of fact, my little brother Tommy and I spent an awful lot of time down at the creek. And what I would do is I would bet kids that my little brother would in fact eat live worms and minnows and crawdads. And he did, and I made the money. I don't remember sharing it with him, but that's an entrepreneur. You guys won't remember this, but years ago, you actually could order produce seeds out of a magazine. They didn't charge you anything. You'd sell them, and you'd send a percentage back to the company. I did that as well. So again, it's safe to say I've been an entrepreneur. I got to tell you one more story, and that is I used to go to the golf course, and I would hunt golf balls. I was never a golfer, and I'd pull my shoes off, roll my socks down, and I'd get inside of that water and find the golf balls. I'd sell them back to the golfers. I'd sell them back to the club. Well, sometimes when walking up to the clubhouse, I'd see a golf ball out in the middle of nowhere, only to find out I was selling it back to somebody who hit a line drive. But the bottom line is it kicked me off the golf course after that because I shouldn't have been out there knowing what I was doing. But go ahead.
So, Johnnie, what led you to starting your own company? And I mean, you've been in business for quite some time. Before I ask you what an ideal customer looks like, how did you lead to starting your company, and who are some of your favorite clients and people that you enjoy interacting with?
Well, as far as starting the company, I was traveling a whole lot. And when I got out of college, I was actually I got my start, I should say, in the deregulation of the Bell operating companies. I had titles of sales rep, sales manager, national sales director, and I was traveling. Our family was growing. It was time for me to get off the road. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but the company that acquired us, I made a little bit of money, so we founded Integrity Communications. Our whole mission in the marketplace is to help businesses to reduce their telecom spend. So bottom line is we go into a business, It's a performance-based audit. It's self-funding. In other words, we don't make a dime unless we are able to reduce spend, and we keep the percentage of the spend. It's an all rewards, really no risk opportunity for our customers. I'll give you an example of a customer recently. You talk about a win, and that is we brought on one of the largest grocers in Kansas City, Ball Foods Price Choppers. They were just about to renegotiate their agreements with their carriers. IT was a little reluctant about bringing us in, but the CFO wanted us in there. Had we not performed the review we did, which, by the way, that review is done off-site within 45 to 60 days. We present a deliverables report identifying billing errors, overcharges, making recommendations for future cost savings. Had we not been brought in, they would have left $121,000 on the table. And again, that's a performance-based self-funding review.
You know, the gentleman that commented below your son, I was in the car today with my 1-year-old.
You're not supposed to talk about the comments until I pull them up. If
That's right, but I had to break.
You would have known this. Toby says, love hearing about your family stories and entrepreneurial spirit, Johnny. Now you can talk about it.
So I texted Gentry to get your information to text Toby. So Toby, we had a meeting in my car over Starbucks, driving around neighborhoods with my 1- and 3-year-olds, so my wife could conduct a presentation for Cerner today. And Toby was so nice, and we were referencing how you help organizations uncover dollars that they're going to spend no matter what. So it's kind of like it's like a no risk type of proposition. And what Toby does through basis processing is the same with credit cards. And so, you know, it always blows my mind when someone like Johnnie or Toby, you're trying to help an organization and they don't even want to just give someone the analysis to do it, because it's like, why would you not? So it always blows me away when people are like, no, don't do it, because I can only imagine the dollars CFOs have left on the table by just not investigating something. And the worst case scenario is, Johnnie, you probably do it all the time. You get to tell someone, hey, you're in a good spot, or hey, tweak this and that.
Why do they say no? Do you think?
Say again?
Why would they say no, Johnnie?
Well, I think the biggest challenge we have as a company, and I can go back, it doesn't matter what company it is. I know I mentioned the grocer, but IT has a space that they own that they're responsible for. And for outside companies such as ours to come in and find things that really were not missed, it's just IT on a day-to-day basis is so busy managing day-to-day, they do not have the time to micromanage. They do not have the wide sweep of the brush that we have of a database of not only nationally but internationally of rate plans, understanding of telephony, as well as maybe programs that are available that the sales representative or the sales manager are even unaware of. And we gain that from the guy across the street, maybe the same size as the account that we're working on, and he's got a better deal, if you will, than the company that we're working to reduce their telecom spend. So it's just a database and years of experience. You know, we have 2 slogans in our business. Integrity is not only our name, it's how we do business. And remember this one: only the uninformed pay full price.
That's like medical bills too, right? There's a big trend on TikTok. I talk about TikTok often, but where they're showing kids, if you call to negotiate your medical bills, you get them way down. And so we got medical bills the other day, and my 9-year-old goes, "Are you going to call on them?" How do you know about that? But that is a great, only the uninformed pay full price. I like that. Yes, Scott, you can go.
All right, trivia question, Aaron. What percentage of medical bills that are sent home to American households are wrong?
All of them.
99.
Close to 75%, and they're not in favor of the person. They're in favor of the medical provider. So 75% of your medical bills that are currently delivered to your house are wrong.
That is great. So see, TikTok, I'm learning stuff on TikTok. All right, we're going to get to our next question. We spent a lot of time on that, but we have such an amazing panel. I did want to say your friend Scott says that Scott knows something about golf balls. So you guys
Scott is having a record year in industrial real estate. So great shout out there.
All right, let's talk. People love the positivity of the show. So I want to talk about our wins this past year and a half. We understand it's been tough for a lot of people, but let's talk about those wins, because we do get a lot of messages of people saying, thank you for bringing that up. I was having a rough day. It got me back up on my feet. So Kristen, what has been, you've changed jobs, you've done all sorts of stuff this past year and a half. What has been your biggest win?
Yeah, there's been a lot of things that have gone on. What I'd say, I think one of the biggest wins is working with NetStandard. And a little background. So the company's been around for 25 years, but we brought in a whole new leadership team at the end of 19 and the beginning of 2020. And I think, I mentioned this earlier before we started, but we said, change is inevitable. Change happens, right? But progress is hard, right? And how do you take a company that's been around for so long and has done very well and takes great care of their customers, and how do we take it to that next level, right? And do that progress. And it's not an easy thing to do, because things are great and you want to push things to be even better, right? So I think what I'm really proud of and what I see is that change in the culture of what we've been doing in the last year. And what I mean by that is we always deliver great customer service. These engineers, they love fixing problems and solving things for customers. But we've been changing the mindset now to say, what is our engagement with our customer? Right? How much do we really know that customer, and how do we also bring value to help them in their business? So we're doing a lot of things differently now than we never did before. Like Operation Breakthrough, Sister Credo, her services, they're a client of ours. And so that whole virtual memorial for her, that was all from our team, setting that up. My sales coordinator was the moderator, doing all of that for them to say, okay, how do we help them from a technology standpoint? And everything that had to be virtual. So I look at that. It's a different way that we're seeing our customers now. We had another opportunity marketing company, and interesting because they do videos and they still use tape for backup, like all these things that you don't think happens anymore, right? And we sat down as a leadership team and figured out a way to support them. And the sales engineer, his face just lit up, and he was like, Kristen, a year ago, that would have been a hard no. He's like, and now it wasn't even a maybe, it was a yes. And just seeing that excitement that they kind of see where we're going as a company and how we're putting that customer and kind of saying, okay, how do we use our resources to truly, truly help them outside of the typical, IT world? I think that's a huge win for us, because it's changing the whole culture, and that is never an easy thing to do. But I think the leadership team has been really successful at it, and the engineers, I think, are really enjoying it, because they're seeing day to day how they help these customers.
Awesome. Merrique, what's been the biggest win for you this past year and a half?
I think, I just think it's a win for me and for a lot of the women that I care about, which is just that, and I've shared this on other things. So COVID has all of these horrible things attached to it. Like everything that's happened with COVID, it's shutting down, people going, remote, people, obviously people getting sick and dying. I mean, there's just a lot with it. I think for a lot of the women that I know, it was something, like I said before, that allowed us to be safer, because like just even like wearing masks, I think for a lot of women allowed us to like do things for ourselves, like, do electrolysis, do laser hair removal, not worry about what people say about us. I always share this story that one of my best friends in Kansas City, who's a trans woman of color, she would walk in, weekly to go to like Target or Walmart, and she could never walk in and out of the store without somebody saying something about her, without somebody harassing her, without somebody, trying to start something. And then COVID happened, and she's walking in and out of the store with a mask on and grabbing groceries. And that literally is the first time since her transition that she's safe. And I think like things like that are not things that people think about with like, what does the mask bring to the table, or what does COVID do? A lot of trans women I know were working in jobs and agencies that didn't accept them or weren't fully affirming. And so being able to work from your own environment, from home, having control of your space, not having control more of like your image and how people see you, I think was also a blessing in a lot of ways. And I think also for a lot of folks that I know, like a lot of these women, they already were skilled at hustling and being entrepreneurs and working for themselves and, getting the next gig, getting this next booking. So I think that's just been really amazing to sort of, also the other thing too is like going And having all this time to basically pause and reset allowed a lot of us to go and get parts of our surgical or medical journey that we wanted, right? We had time to heal and recover from that. I mean, I went through 3 major surgeries this past year and recovered from that. My body has gone through it. And it's still recovering, but that probably wouldn't have been able to be possible if it wasn't for what the pandemic did to American society, to our culture, to our workforce, in terms of like saying, you know what, let's reassess. Like, we don't need to work and hustle and grind like we used to. This can look different, right? We can have families take more time to be with each other, to co-parent, to share responsibilities, to say, you know, there's going to be kids in the background that are running around and doing stuff, and that's normal. That's what families look like. So I think all of that's been really beautiful.
I have a quick question. So from our personal experience, my partner is a woman of color, obviously a gay woman of color, who presents a little more masculine. And she has felt with everything since George Floyd that people have been a lot more open, have been a lot less judgmental, have asked questions when maybe they wouldn't have before to try to understand. Do you feel like that has been the same experience for the trans community as well?
I think for, you know, I can't unlink race to anything. So it depends, you know, trans community, like, who are we talking about, right? I think, I definitely think with the murder of George Floyd and so many other Black folks in America, that I think that for white folks and even for non-Black people of color, it has kind of been a kick in our butt to be like, we have to do more to be accountable in allyship with, you know, with Black folks and Black people in our lives. And I think that what I've seen is that people are definitely open more, I think, in general, to having that conversation, to being like, okay, maybe I don't know everything. But I also think that I don't see folks kind of move that necessarily into a direction beyond a hashtag or a change on their Facebook, you know, banner, or, you know, like, my thing is, I'm in Seattle right now, right? Like, it's super white. And so one of the things that I see all the time is all these super progressive white folks that are, you know, having their signs on their yards to say, you know, in this house, love is love, you know, Black Lives Matters, trans is beautiful, blah, 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 right? But I'm like, do y'all have any Black friends? Like, do you know Black people? Because if you don't, like, and you're not in relationship with people of color, and they're not working with you, and they're not in leadership, it doesn't necessarily, I don't think, matter. Now, I say this as a light-skinned woman of color, but I think that there's more that I think certain folks are looking for, especially organizers and activists and advocates and people who are on the ground, to be like, we need to see more than good intentions, right? And so that is where I'm hoping folks will go. And I think that is still a challenge for Kansas City, because Kansas City is a culture that embraces the nice, right? Like, KC nice is a real thing. To move past that and to be like, beyond the pleasantries, let's get real, I think is still a challenge for a lot of folks. So
yeah, kind of the point I made with Kristen is the Kansas City nice thing. It prevents a lot of people from really, from a business perspective, but let alone social change. I didn't even think about it from a social change perspective, because you just don't even want to dive into it, or it takes too long. So it's a very, very interesting blend of thoughts there, but still the same outcome.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. Kansas City nice is a thing. You know, if you work with clients on any of the coasts, here I always have to say, hey, we like the brutal feedback too. It gets us to our goal quicker, right? In that creative space. So we definitely have that conversation a lot of times with our Kansas City clients. All right, Chuck, how about you? What's been a big win besides becoming a big viral hit?
Say this. Okay, keep forgetting about that mic, but I'll say this. I'll say my big win is just the growth of our podcast here at Kingdom Kast, just from where we started. Started way back in December of last year, and just to watch our growth and watch, you know, mostly positive feedback, you know, that just gives us fuel to keep going and keep building and keep improving, moving forward as far as where we want to take it to. But as far as me personally, I'm just thankful that I'm still able to wake up every day and I'm still breathing and I'm still in good health, you know, despite all of us having to deal with the pandemic and, you know, a lot of us being inside of our homes and, you know, people having to wear masks and protecting themselves, and vaccine discussions and everything. And also, I want to say that another thing, like, this is something that's pretty crazy. I got this in my hands right here. This is something that's gonna be remembered forever, and I can't believe this company just honored me in doing this. This bad luck Chuck bobblehead. I mean, I'll always have this, for the rest of my life. The folks at National Bobblehead Hall of Fame Museum, they called me and they wanted to do a collaboration on the bobblehead, and everything worked out. And that's something that's gonna be up there in their own factory up in Wisconsin forever. So I'm just honored just to even have the opportunity and just be a part of it.
I think you're our first guest ever to have their own bobblehead.
Yeah, we've had people on the Oprah Winfrey show, but the first bobblehead. Chuck, how do people find you? Where do they search to find your show? Where do they search to find you?
Okay, Kingdom Kast. It's on YouTube, and you can find us there. Just type in Kingdom Kast, and we're on Anchor as well. We're on all kinds of platforms. Right now, we're working in Kingstown and Apple, but everywhere else, we're on every other platform. And you can also find our live shows on the Twitter page as well. Like what used to be Periscope. I know Periscope's no longer an app, but the live shows are on the Twitter page, recording everything. So you can find us there as well.
And it's King of Kast with a K.
Yep. Kingdom Kast, 2 Ks.
It's what? Say it one more time. I thought I did it right. Did I do it right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. Well, a bobblehead's a pretty awesome win, I would say. I want a bobblehead.
I don't know anyone that's contacting anyone I know that's like, hey, you want to do a collaboration?
Here's your bobblehead. All right, Johnnie, we've got like 9 minutes left. What has been your biggest win this year besides having the most amazing family and them all being guests on our show?
All right. So when the pandemic hit, well, let me even back up. We talked about this before the show started. I own a building on Main Street in Gardner, Kansas. There's a throughway right out front here. It's a major interstate. It's Old 56 Highway, otherwise known as 175th Street. When the pandemic hit, we teamed up with Bull Creek Distillery. The distilleries throughout the nation were asked to start making hand sanitizer. We put a big sign out front, hand sanitizer, product of Bull Creek Distillery. One of my high school classmates that lives up here, Karen Funch, she saw we were selling hand sanitizer, but she makes quilts. So we started selling face masks. We had the most incredible 3 months we ever had. That wasn't the objective to make a lot of revenue, but what happened to us was individuals were coming in that were decision makers. They were buying hand sanitizer, 5 gallons, 6 gallons. They were buying face masks. Every one of those individuals that walked through our store received a menu of services of everything we do. I mentioned our telecom expense reduction. I didn't mention our wireless expense management. We've handled I cannot say the company name, but they do taxes and their logo color is green. We've handled that account for 18 years. We procure all of their cell phones. We handle help desk for the activation of those devices. We have a reclamation program for the devices for processing them and putting them back out in the field. We have software where we import the carrier records and we optimize the expenses and manage the assets. What that did for us was open up a lead generation that has brought us to a point that when I call these individuals back, it's no longer a cold lead, it's a warm lead. Oh, by the way, you were on our office during that time, and here's what you purchased. Now, what that has done for us, the big win is we have brought on Ball Foods. We reduced our telecom spend $121,000. We brought on the Monarch Cement Company. We reduced their telecom spend $151,000. We brought on Geiger Ready Mix. We reduced their telecom spend $66,000. We are presently performing reviews for North Kansas City Hospital and all the Constantino Price Choppers. So we have some verticals now. We have grocers, we have hospitals, Truman Medical Center, Memorial Hospital, Anderson Hospital, and we're moving in the right direction. Amen.
I love it. And I like that he knows his numbers like that right off.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
one of the things One of the things we didn't tell the panel, so if you've never watched the show, this is going to be a surprise because we didn't have the whole 15 minutes because I messed it all up. I'm so sorry. But Scott's favorite thing to do when you go to an event, which Scott puts on all the time, is to do a really quick icebreaker. So we have just a couple of minutes, so do a quick one, Scott. But audience, we want your answers. This happens to be everybody's favorite part of the show, so come up with a quick icebreaker. We've got a couple minutes to close this out, and this has been an amazing panel. Go ahead, Scott.
Whenever you're getting groups of people together in person, no one cares about your company. No one cares about Aaron's marketing or my healthcare benefits. People care that they share, and that's what we do on this show. So I encourage you, whenever you're getting a group of people together, if you help everyone bond and come together, they'll naturally ask how they can help you. But I'm going to throw Aaron for a little curveball here, and I want to know your guilty pleasure you get at the movie theater as your snack, and a favorite movie. You can do favorite movies. Don't think too hard about it. It could be a recent one, could be your all-time favorite, could be 3 movies. But Kristen, what is that snack you're getting at the snack bar? You got no budget requirements. That's what you're getting. And what movie would you want to see?
That's okay. Well, the snack's easy. I am a salt girl, 100%. So I am all about popcorn with butter. And the more salt, the better.
So you're rotating with the butter.
I am
totally.
You give me potato chips, French fries. Yeah, I love salt. I do. It's my guilty pleasure. Movies. I'm an old soul. The Big Chill is probably one of my favorite movies.
All right, Merrique, what we got? What's the favorite snack?
Any of us?
Nope.
Merrique.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking, I was like, probably a pretzel with cheese. Like
Salt or no salt?
Oh, salt, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the movie, or movies or new movie, whatever you're feeling.
It would be like the newest horror film. Absolutely.
Got a flashlight here that my daughter had.
I convinced my boyfriend right now to because they open back up to do the Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights, and they have 2 of my favorite horror movies ever that they're doing. They commit, right? So they're doing The Exorcist as well as Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm going to be in heaven. It's going to be amazing. That's the most romantic thing we could ever do. So excited.
Ooh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just holding hands, get the pretzel out.
Carry that. Yeah.
So romantic.
Yeah.
Chuck, what about you? What's that snack you really want?
Oh man, gotta go with an all-time favorite here. I'm gonna go with the Bunch of Crunch because back when I was a kid, sometimes I used to mix that up with popcorn. Get that little chocolate flavor in there.
And then what about movie?
As far as movie, I'm gonna go ahead and say Friday.
Friday. 1 or 2? Next Friday or Friday?
Oh, I like the first one, but I also like the third one. So I have to go like 1, 3, and second because 1, the part about Chris was saying that Ice Cube never had 2 things that match. Somebody, cereal, no milk, Kool-Aid, no sugar. They never had 2 things to match.
So just so you know, guys communicate in movie metaphors. So I know. I get it. So, but all right, Johnny, we got 1 minute left. What's your guilty pleasure of what you're going to eat in your movie?
Milk Duds.
What movie?
Caddyshack. It's an old movie, but I love that show.
How about
Aaron,
you,
what
Scott?
about yourself?
What's that?
I like M&M's and The Princess Bride. How about you?
Ooh, I could do nachos with like the real healthy cheese, I think, or like Kristen, the popcorn. Love Shawshank Redemption. Love it all day.
Yeah.
Look, we've got
That's been playing a lot lately. I've seen it twice in the last one.
Cheese.
lots of popcorn, lots of M&Ms. And from Bank of Blue Valley to close it out, Miss Lori, if you need a home equity line of credit, this is who you go to. She can do a mortgage. She can do a car loan. She can do it all. She says Junior Mints. I do like Junior Mints. I always forget about them, though. Thank you so much to our panel. Please connect with our panel. These are some of the most amazing guests we've had. Don't forget, tomorrow, if you want to go to the summit, go here to sign up. check out Kings of Cash. I've got Kristen. I'm pulling up your two because Kristen and Johnnie, you guys are actually tagged on the LinkedIn post because you guys spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So go connect with them there as well. Thank you so much to our panel. Thank you so much to the Blue Valley. We will see you same time, same place here next week. Have a wonderful week.